we are live.
Episode 18.
Hello.
World Finals. Possible discussions of after finals. Glimpses into the future. Future. This is Vision Denial. We no longer have any wagers because Worlds is over. But
We are sad
We might next
boys.
year.
we might next year. We had a fun time analyzing and discussing and ranting about things that happen in Worlds. Guess what? We still got a little bit of it in us. My name's
Yep.
Sebastian. I'm with Josh and Connor.
Connor.
Can't stop, won't stop until November and then or December, and then we might pick back up. Who knows?
We have ideas for possible videos afterwards that we look into things about like how pick and bans work, ways to analyze different teams and their strengths and weaknesses. For the
Off-season
moment,
pickups, all that good stuff.
a whole bunch of news things. But at the first point, we've got a series to analyze, and we can do this game by game because there's only one series.
Mhm.
Sure.
Let me just
Soon
pull that up.
versus Damwon. I'm sad face.
I'm sad face post game 2.
Post game 2.
Oh.
All right. I gotta say, Damwon has like the cleanest pick ban the entire tournament has shown. Yes, agreed. Everyone in agreement?
Probably.
Yeah, I can't see much of an issue with most anything they're doing. Yeah.
They banned
That
Camille
being
a
said,
lot.
There's
Yeah,
not
that's
much I
fine.
can say about the weirdness out of Damwon. If there's something weird, it'll be notable. But game 1, nothing weird out of Damwon.
Yep.
It's kind of bizarre out of Sunings. Just a little bit. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. It's just got no synergy.
Yeah.
How about you, Josh? How'd you feel about this?
Game 1 for Suning. Let's just look at that again. So Suning had Ezreal, Leona, Azir, and then Shen Wukong, and then Damwon had Graves, Ornn, Orianna, Ashe, Pantheon. So for the bot lane matchup, I guess I'll start there. They basically both picked aggressive stun supports.
Mhm.
But the difference is that Damwon's aggressive stun support can kill you. At least easier than a Leona. Yes, I've seen Leonas. I've also been 1v1'd as a Leona when I tried to AD carry. So like I know it's possible, but like usually like you're half health, you're sticking around in lane probably when you shouldn't be, blah 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 blah. That's just not gonna happen in professional. Whereas like the Pantheon sometimes got solo kills almost. And like the Ashe was literally there to get the last auto attack off to get the kill. And like other than that, most of the damage was done by the Pantheon. So like oh sorry.
Yeah, but you play Pantheon for the early game damage and the early priority in lane.
Yeah.
And then the later the game goes, the better that gets for the Leona, who is now the point of Leona is you can get to the point where you go W aftershock.
Yep. And you go, I'm the tank now, and you just become unkillable.
Well, the trick is that lasts for about 3 seconds-ish, and then W sustains for an extra 3, so you have like 6 seconds extra resistance is there. And then you also, late game, if you can get like a... why am I blanking? The thing you click that makes you tankier but do less damage. Stone plate, thank you.
Stone plate. I was like, Cotter, I don't know what you want to say, Cotter.
And then you just don't die. So you do that for much longer. The Pantheon only is 1.5 seconds. But
so here's my issue.
But yeah,
is that Suning picks a composition that has a timer. They do this a lot, and like sure, it worked in their side of the bracket because none of their opponents knew how to control the pace for some reason, which is really weird because top usually knows, but they didn't that time.
Yep.
And I wrote here, Damwon, simple, strong at all stages. You got the bot lane strong early, and the transitions easily all around pretty well. And then like the top lane, the top side of the map is like, hi, we're going to be the late game carriers. Let's go. You don't have that on the side of Suning. Shen falls off over time in terms of utility, that you have to be aggressive early. Same with Wukong. Leona sure helps with the scaling, but like your support scaling is not going to help, and your Ezreal and Azir don't have enough tools to be self-sufficient. So you have a timer at 25 minutes, or you're fucked.
Also, really quick, I did not like Huang Feng's Ezreal this series.
Mm-hmm.
I did not.
Yeah.
I felt like he was. He only played it the one time, right? Thankfully.
Yeah, just the one.
I was like, what even is happening right now? Like, he was missing cues.
No, he played it twice.
Huh? Did he play
Game
it twice?
1, Game 3.
That's
Game
right.
three.
He did play Game 3. He did play Game 3. That's why I was like, yeah. Both games, like, I distinctly remember seeing like, oh, if he hits this, he's fine, and it didn't happen. And like, that's kind of important, especially as an Ezreal. And again, I know high pressure situations and blah blah blah, like excuses can be made. I get that, but also like if you want to win worlds, that can't be a thing. And
Yeah.
like I was seeing a lot of like W's getting missed and stuff like that, and obviously I'm not in their head. I don't have pro view or anything like that, so I can't see exactly what's happening. But there was a couple times where I remember he would hit a W and then miss the Q, and then seemingly like panic ye to get the proc off for the W, just to get the damage in there. I'm not gonna say it's panic E just in case, but it did look like he was shifting in a panic to get the W proc off. And yeah, this game, like, I'm not impressed by the Ezreal like at all. I what was the score? Let me see. Yeah, I ended the game 2-3-3, which is like fine, I guess, but I really don't think that he was adding much to the game, honestly. And when it came to the Wukong, I liked the idea of it. The idea was fine. The problem is that, at least to my knowledge, a couple of the plays that would have turned out good, from what I remember with this Wukong, he went in and they either didn't have Shen ult or wouldn't use Shen ult on him to give him a bit more sustain. So he would go in, do his double ults, knock up a couple people, blah, 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 get a couple people really low. But then he'd be stuck in there with the team slowly trailing behind, and he'd be dead by the time the team got there. And then SOFM would like ult like Angel or Huangfang to save them.
Yep.
Which is like, I know that's part of the deal with Shen, is that it can also be used to save people, but like I feel like if you pick the Wukong, you should be doing like dash in Shen ults like almost every time. I would think.
And you can do that on Leona too. Like,
yeah, that too.
Leona
It
E,
didn't
then
need
jump
to
on
be
it.
the Wukong every time, but yeah.
Yeah. That's the other thing. Like, what I don't like here is the Azir, especially his third pick.
Yeah.
Like, not even last pick, but like, especially, like, what does the Azir do? Like, okay, so Shen, Wukong, and Leona's jumping in, and Ezreal's safe. Cool. But the Azir is also, are you jumping in with them? Are you staying back with the Ezreal? Like, I guess you have options for both. But, like, also what Seb said about the timer. It's like, okay, you're probably losing, like, very early on, like, especially pre-6, to Ashe, Pantheon, Graves.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, your first 5 minutes-ish, you can't do that much. And then, yes, you're on a timer. So you only have your mid-game transition, and your mid-game is when you need to get things done. You don't win super early, you don't win super late. Okay, so you're playing for mid-game. And the Azir doesn't really help with that, per se. Like, let's replace that Azir with maybe a Sylas into the Ornn. You know, it also makes them, like, hesitant to pick up the Ashe. It's like, oh, if we pick up the Ashe, you can now, you know, take that arrow from us, take the Ornn ult. It gives you a lot, even more engage options to just double down on. an extra target for the Shen if that's the route you're going. Like, it makes your engage comp that much better versus Vizier, which doesn't really add that much to the comp.
And this might kind of like be a talking point that I kind of get into like later.
Mhm.
But I'm gonna start talking about it now because it's kind of relevant for like most of the series. Barring game 2, the other 2 games where Nuggery played Ornn, like he could solo people. Like he was when was it? Yeah, game 4. Like there was a point where I don't think he got the kill, but he got Angel so low that Angel needed to blow alt and flash, I believe, just to get away from him. And like I think they got him because like Canyon roamed up or something, but like 95% of the damage done to him was literally just Nuggery on Ornn. And like
Game 4 there was no Ornn. Or no, game 4 wasn't Ornn.
Yeah, game 4 was the Ornn. It was game 3 that had the cannon.
Game 3 was the.
But yeah,
the
so
one.
like just in this game, to keep it more to this game as well, game 1, 11 assists, amazing. Like that's like sick play support stats right there. It makes supports proud everywhere.
11. Yeah, I guess in professional play.
2 and 11 on professional.
I gotta
get
something out of Damwon for the way they did their pick ban in the first game. They did not go for the Shen ban bluff. And I was with Connor when we were doing the pick when the pick and ban was happening, and I was trying to quiz him on what should be picked and ban, and then he mentioned Shen. I was like, no, that's a bluff. They're not going to pick Shen top. They're going to do Shen jungle, right? And then the first thing they picked is Shen. They're like, oh, is it going to go top? I was like, nope, it's going jungle. And then immediately, that's exactly what happened. They picked the Wukong to go Shen jungle, and Damwon didn't give a shit. And I gotta commend them on not buying into the baits. Because one thing, Sunings may pick weird things, but at least they are doing it in a way that forces their opponent to like be reactive to the pick and force them to do really wacky stuff. That's why I was like, the series against Top was really bizarre because they just forced them to pick wacky stuff also. Damwon didn't fall for any of it in any of their series. And solid stuff. Super minor, but it has huge implications. Whenever you see ways that your opponent does some pick bans, you have to be aware of what they may think or what you might think they want to do and what will be an alternative that might throw you off.
Do we want to move on to game 2?
Yeah.
Game 2 is my favorite game of the series. I know they lost, but I'm still giving my player of the series to fucking SOFM. I have to. The fucking tank Rengar, amazing. So good.
I hated it so much.
Why? It was awesome.
It had a lack of effectiveness.
Nah, I think it was plenty effective.
Yeah, cool. It was plenty effective at stealing things because it lived. It did not kill things.
Well, also, only another jungler with a cleanse could have taken that Soul Dragon.
Yeah.
Who else has a cleanse in their kit? Yeah.
But like, I know. I know he wasn't doing like the one shot like super carry Rengar, blah blah blah. But like, and the casters highlighted this a couple times too. It's like he might not be killing anyone, but the fact that he's able to like jump on like Ghost and Showmaker or even Canyon sometimes and like easily half health them with a full tank build and then still get out is like super useful. It's like again, we all made this this comparison, but it's like kind of like his Lee Sin, where it's like Lee Sin has enough base damage to like severely harm squishies and carries, So
Yeah.
use that, and then use the other resources in their kit to help out your carries. So SOFM's Rengar was basically helping out his carries by setting up kills, which, again,
Yeah, look here.
unconventional. I still think it's cool.
Yeah, he did 10.6k damage to champions. So, not a lot. The Fiora, for comparison, did 27.7, so 2.5 times the damage.
But Fiora is
But
also a damage machine.
yeah, but he had 30k in healing, which makes like Soraka look bad almost.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Here's the thing.
30k in healing. That's insane.
I gotta commend Suning for the cojones for this
Mhm.
composition. One, regardless if you're doing Rengar effective or not, this is an incredibly complicated composition to run.
Mm-hmm.
Especially since you got another crazy scaling and simple composition out of Damwon.
Mm-hmm.
Super easy to set up, not an issue. And sure, Rengar was a soft counter. I say soft, very soft counter to Evelyn, and they got lucky that it became a hard counter because they rolled the Cloud Drake. Nice. The thing that comes into an issue here, however, is that no team has been able to properly execute on the 1-4 comp in a way that would out pressure an Evelyn in any given stage of the game. The fact that they did pull it off is absolutely insane. The fact that they pulled it off also with a pentakill, that was pretty hype.
Mm-hmm.
But it really hinged on Suning having to have control of the tempo, and they didn't. Honestly, like I see this, I'm like, all right, they have a 10, 15, and 20-minute check, 10-minute check, 500 gold Damwon, 15-minute check, 2k gold for Damwon. And then Suning punishes Damwon at some point shortly after. And then the 20-minute check, it's still a 2k lead for Damwon. And Suning doesn't have control of the tempo. They just stall forever in a way that like really surprised me. Because in the position that they were at, most other teams would panic and have Fiora permanently with the team instead of like on the side lanes trying to create an extra set of pressure for people to force to come to.
And because they had so many Cloud Drakes, SOFM would just be constantly alting and like running top lane.
Yeah, and
so like Bin was never alone, which is great.
Yeah, I was gonna say he was just really supporting the Fiora, and
so I'm gonna counter this to being one, extra like large cojones out of Suning, two, huge horseshoe up their ass for this because it went from a soft counter to a hard counter thanks to the Cloud Drakes, and then three, the absolute like
Rengar's ult is true invisibility, right? Like you can't see him.
No, you can see him. If you're too close, you'll be seen.
Okay, I wasn't sure.
No, it gives you like an exclamation mark when he's close. It doesn't tell you.
I thought his ult was like Shaco, where you don't see him until he pops out of it.
You definitely get the marking over your head that's like,
yeah,
hey, there's a Rengar nearby. He's camouflaged. So camouflaged is okay. So it's revealed by true sight or control words. So, and
but
if they take damage, so say from a area of effect spell, they briefly shimmer up to a maximum of once per second.
Okay, but other than that, you can't see him unless he's on a control ward.
Yeah, so a control ward or true sight. So
it's literally like Shaco. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
here's the thing though, right? His position is
same as Evelyn.
Always given away by the marker on top of whatever champion's head. You know how he's closer to somebody than others.
Yeah.
But the point being is that that's not the point of that. The point of that is that it reveals Evelyn. That's the cool part. It will reveal Evelyn with the ult, and that's a soft counter because usually there's a time of cooldown. But because the cooldown becomes so short with so many cloud tricks, it becomes a permanent counter.
Slash also because he built
Cooldown reduction.
cooldown reduction because he was building tank.
Yeah.
So
So they went from a soft counter to being rolling lucky to making it a hard counter. And then the resolve to commit to the play and stalling for so long, they managed to pull out this win. And like, kudos to you, but quite honestly, you fucked up the first like 25 minutes of this game. Yeah,
I don't know if
that's it.
I'd agree with the first 25 minutes.
They were down 2k gold against an Ornn at 20 minutes, and they were still down 2.5k gold at 25 minutes against an Ornn.
Well, I think Damwon's comp is better early though.
It's actually pretty close to even early. They all hit the same points of attack.
Yeah. Lucian's strong early. Thresh is weird because like Thresh can make plays early, but in theory, especially with his soul scaling and his cooldown scaling,
a lot of scaling. Jhin has a good spike mid game. Rengar is supposed to be working really early and tends to be able to out pressure Evelynn because the invisibility hasn't kicked in quite yet. Fiora definitely has pressure early. Yeah, no, they should have been able to get the lead early in. They were supposed to, and they didn't. And this is why I'm like, I have to commend them for sticking to the play even when they fucked up, and the fact they got really lucky with the Drakes, but they still fucked up the first 25 minutes.
Yep.
It was exciting. It was cool. I was really hyped. It was nice. But objectively speaking, it was not a great time, especially since it required them to be more proactive, and they weren't.
Yep.
Yeah.
Next.
Although I gotta say that that Elder Drake Seal with the cleanse healing, it's really nice.
I thought this was a great game to watch. It was super fun to watch. It was super just great. Just good old.
It was good old.
Yeah. I have to mention that in the episode too. So during the game, like I went back and watched the pro view of that after they had it on, and it's like the Rengar, the amount of jumps he was getting off of things, like he would auto attack to the like to a blast cone to get to that, and then use the blast cone to then hit the next bush, which then jumps to like a honey fruit, which is then touching the next bush.
It's actually insane. Like there was so many times where I was like, okay, he's out of the fight now. He's not going back in. And then he go back in.
Or like I noticed a couple times he dodged skill shots like he dodged like a couple of thresh hooks by like leaving an enemy ward alive, and then like as the thresh hook was coming at him, he did like a half dash back to the ward in the same bush to dodge the thresh hook.
Yeah.
Specifically
because he left that ward alive. I was like, ooh.
Most of this is to say Vietnamese players are nutty. Kudos to SOFM.
Do we start talking about the sad games now?
So game 3 is not as sad.
Game 3 is kind of sad.
Yeah, but that's because we now know retrospectively.
I don't know. I was pretty upset about the Omni Stone.
I was too.
Huh?
I was too.
Yeah. So
yeah, he was going on about that a lot.
Game 3.
To be fair,
about it so
Game
much.
3, for those who didn't know or didn't pay attention or whatever, Bin and SOFM on Jax and Italy both take Omni Stone as their main rune, and I personally do not understand why.
It's very hit or miss.
Oh wow, that's great. It's a lottery.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna do my rant.
Sure.
Damwon had the wackest pick ban I've seen them do for the first half of it. Because this was incredibly early. They pick a Jhin Graves combo, bad, you're hyper indexing into burst, and you also had a Syndra. I was like, super early for all of these. It's in a weird order. It's reactive to a lot of stuff that they're picking up. And the Nidalee Akali Jax is such a good combo out of Suning. Like, holy shit. And then you go to the second round. Suning picked this like really good band. They have weird bans out of Damwon for Bar Thresh. This is the weirdest pick band I've seen Damwon do the entire tournament. And then they pick Kennen. I'm like, okay, this is better, but you're still indexing into burst a lot. And then they pick Braum, and I'm like, that's great. That's good. Not going to super help you out in the grand scheme of things, but that's good. But Suning pick Alistar Ezreal, and I'm like, all right, that doesn't gel, but it's fine. I'm like, all right, Damwon has a timer, 15 minutes. They have to be able to get the lead early, because otherwise the burst falls off. And the effectiveness of their comp literally falls off after 15 minutes. It becomes less easy for them to do anything. And as I'm writing that, I say Suning scales really well, but have like a really weak early game.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a ... Because I didn't finish my thought because I saw Omni Stone. And I went,
Yeah.
So like when you have a Nidalee and a Jax, the Nidalee's goal is to focus to top consistently. Like especially against a Kennen at this point. Because the Jax will be able to enable the Nidalee's ganks and vice versa.
Also, you don't need to be going bot because your Ezreal theoretically should be safe enough.
Exactly, right? It's like you'll suffer early with this composition. That's because you can't attack Dragon, and you're the blue side team, and you should be attacking Dragon.
Mhm.
Whatever. But the second that you don't have a conqueror on both your Jax and Nidalee, you immediately reduce the effectiveness of anything either one of these two champions can do. You're going to roll shit that's not going to work. More runes don't work well with Nidalee and Jax than they do. And this is just the wackest thing to do to reduce the effectiveness of your comp and really stunt you. You went from being like it suffers early to just being unable to do anything early against a composition that wants to win early and get leads. And I'm like,
Also, for reference, the last 2 times Ben picked Jax, he went Conqueror both times against top.
Okay. But like we did see a couple of plays. Like we saw him with like the one time they killed Kennen, he got aftershock, jumped in, stunned him, and then didn't take very much damage in return because he had his Jax ult and his Jax ult gives extra resistances, and then he gets aftershock on that, and it's like that makes him
great.
super tanky.
Yeah, but then you get that once, and then that's it.
And like we saw like the Nidalee Predator play.
Yeah, but imagine if Nidalee and Jax had the Conqueror, and then the Kennen would be dead faster.
Yeah, they could just fight them.
Okay.
So like whatever cool utility combos that you would usually not get the chance to do because they're not always effective, because you get the Omni Stone, is all well and good, except then you remember why they're not as effective, and you start going for lots of rolling of really low effective to non-effective rune combinations, and then like sometimes crazy rune combinations. But you're not gonna. You're most of the time gonna get the latter or the former.
And like I can see that on Nidalee a lot more, but I think it's not as bad on Jax because you can actually like what's the worst thing you can roll on Jax?
Glacial.
Okay, so you jump in on somebody, then give them and give you an extra slow. Like you don't have a slow in your kit. That now allows you to land your E buddies here.
You don't build anything that slows. There's so many things. You get airy. You can't use airy effect.
It's an extra proc of a tiny bit of damage, and then
yeah, but that's the thing. The runes, the effectiveness of these runes are based in being able to use them more than once in a go, but you use them once and then they swap to something else. Effectively making them garbage. Like I get it, stacking ones, if you get the ones that stack things, you get a certain amount of stacks defaulted to you, but then you lose them as soon as it switches out. You're risking so much ineffective time.
Yeah.
Where your champion just becomes worse.
Like I get what you're saying, Connor, how sometimes like it'll be like a good extra oomph of whatever you need at the moment. Like totally possible. I get that. I just think personally, I don't know if that was worth it.
Hell,
Yeah.
if you just for Jax, I would have been like, okay, they're being a little nutty, but they did it on both. And I think that's the biggest crux of the issue is that you needed it to be on neither because that's where your early game was going to go to. And then you just lose out late game because your room isn't built for it.
Also, I just to kind of continue the conversation elsewhere. Yes, Omnistone, we're questioning it.
So,
Akali versus Syndra. Oh, sorry, Connor, go.
oh, I was going to say, I was reading through it. They actually, Omnistone is not entirely random. It gives you a keystone depending on what is nearby to you and what like health bars are and that kind of thing. So, for example, you have an increased chance of getting Conqueror, A, if you're a melee champion, B, if there's a nearby enemy champion with high health. If there's an enemy champion, if you're low health and below level 9, increased odds of fleet footwork. If there's an enemy champion with low health nearby, you get increased chance of Dark Harvest or Hail of Blades. You get increased Hail of Blades chance if you're building attack speed.
Wait, that's worse. That's incredibly worse. That's like you're trying to meta game how many runes you can get out of the ways you play. That makes it even more predictable to fuck you over.
Summon Airy is only likely if you actually have built healing or shielding power, or if you are near a low health ally. So, like if you're alone in top lane, kind of thing, it won't give you Airy.
Except Jax did get Airy alone in top lane.
That's... Okay. So,
I remember that happening. I was like, wait, why? Anywho, moving on. I made my case about Omnistone because, like, there's no argument you can make for me that'll convince me that this was a semi-good idea. This was just whack.
I think it could have been a semi-good idea. I think the problem is that this wasn't the place for semi-good ideas. So for really quick for me, maybe it's just because I keep thinking of the bad games, but like I really don't like Akali into Syndra. Like I feel like it always does so bad. And yes, like the Angel has a positive score at the end of it all, but like I'm watching that game and I'm like, Akali's getting their shit kicked in for like a good part of the early game. And yes, they were able to do things later on, but it's like I don't get it, man. Like I don't know. I don't like
Akali loses most any lane priest.
So the way that I see it is that Akali's scaling mirrors Syndra's. And with her mobility, it allows you to match Syndra in terms of the roam.
Yeah, but she doesn't do nearly as much damage as Syndra does.
She does when she gets going.
Yeah, if you're fed and ahead and blah 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 blah, but like that's I don't know. I think that's
the idea is not how much damage can she do to Syndra, it's how much damage can she do to anybody else that's squishy.
Syndra is also squishy. Syndra's squishy.
Syndra has a deceptive amount of sustainability.
From what?
What sustain does Syndra have?
No, okay, so it's deceptive because of the way that she deals with damage and she uses her crowd control. Like, how many times have you seen a Syndra live from things that she shouldn't have?
Because she just uses her E at the right time to avoid damage.
Yeah, but basically. That's not sustainability. That's a stun.
Or even just a knockback from it. Like it's the same way as like you survive on Thresh because you used Flay to interrupt things. It's like you should have died to that Lee Sin, but if you perfectly time your Flay, you don't. Right? Same with Syndra. It's like you can.
The fact that like Akali has built-in sustain, but Syndra has a lot more control. And Syndra isn't as disruptive in a team fight, but Akali is. And the idea behind it is that because both of them have very similar scaling, like they tend to match up with each other in scaling. The pick to me made sense.
Right? Yeah, but like I don't think that's true though, because a Syndra that's like averaging CS, like not ahead, whatever, but like that is average kills, average CS, like nowhere, like by all definitions is not ahead, can still one-shot kill someone if she does her full combo. Akali at best, if she's average, does maybe half your health and then slinks away. Like, that's two very different things.
Yeah, the scaling it's not necessarily just the damage number. There's also the disruptiveness that comes from it, right? Syndra is not as disruptive as Akali is.
How? Akali has no CC. Syndra definitely has more disruption. She scatters the weak and everyone gets
It's
stunned.
the way you have to react to it. If you're imagine you're like the enemy team's Ashe, right? Reacting to the Syndra is basically staying out of her R range kind of thing. So it's like I'm staying 700 range away from Syndra. Okay, cool.
Sure.
That's fine. Or like watching her orbs if she has her E up to like see if I can like avoid a stun if possible. Cool. Akali gets like there's a shroud in front of my face, and I don't want to go anywhere even remotely near that because she's just gonna full combo me out of that shroud at any moment, and I don't know what's going on. And even though I'd like to walk up and like at least start getting auto attacks onto the tank, I don't know what that Akali's doing, and
yeah, from an
and I
Akali
can't
that's
say if she's
ahead.
all of a sudden gonna jump up, right? So,
From an Akali
no.
that's ahead.
Any Akali.
No. Like that happened this game. The Akali would make a shroud and people would just walk into it because they're not afraid of her because she's not ahead.
Except it actually did effectively work out in that. Let's see, what is it again?
But Akali's also like because of how much sustain she has, especially with the Gunblade. So if I'm a Gunblade Akali versus like whatever Syndra, so the Syndra, sure, she can possibly one shot a backline, but usually the backline's not going to be near her. So she's often going to be trying to just like land a stun, push someone away, try to get some damage out. Cool, fine. Maybe she gets lucky and like one shot the jungler or something. Cool.
At the 28-minute mark.
Yep.
The disruptiveness was shown from that game from Akali. They got an ace and the Baron out of that particular fight. And the combination of one, they had the Jax who's doing as much as he can for being in the face of everybody, but Jhin can't walk in on anything while the Akali is also disrupting. Granted, this is usually how that ends up pulling off, is the Akali there is meant to be disruptive and to cause as much hurt to your sustained damage options or to your squishy damage options. Syndra is a control mage. She controls the terrain as much as possible, right? And she's a burst mage also, so she has burst damage, and burst damage tends to fall off at some point, while Akali's is a weird combination of burst and sustained damage with the disruption.
If she's ahead.
Well, no, because as Akali, like you said, okay, so she's limited to half someone's health. But okay, so Akali goes in, does half of someone's health bar, doesn't use her ult. Remember, her ult scales off of your missing health, so now you have to worry about that. And then goes back to her shroud. So now you're like, okay, we have 4.5 health bars. And we have to worry about our squishy member now being jumped on again by the Akali. So Akali waits back for her Q and E cooldowns again, and then can maybe second time goes in, uses her ult, and uses her E to jump back to the shroud again. Right? So Akali can reset her cooldowns and get multiple rotations off in the same fight, and can take a bunch of damage the first time she goes in, heal it all right back up, and come in the second time.
Akali's heals are not that good. She does not heal it all back up instantly. No, they're not. They are not.
She's not like Kane level or something, but
yeah, but you're making it seem like one Q gets half her health bar back, which is not the case at all.
It's not like that anymore. No.
No. She's not
like nowhere near that good.
Like I said, she's not Red Kane. No, but if she's at 1,000 health and she gets off her combo, okay, now she's at 1,300, lands another Q. 14, especially in lane early against Syndra. Syndra's probably not going to one-shot her at first. So even if I get hit by a couple of abilities, I can sustain it back up. Whereas the damage I'm doing to the Syndra, she can't sustain back up as well. So if I'm able to land a couple of abilities, I can heal up. She can't.
I'll give it to you, Josh, in the terms of the issue lies in execution. There's a lot of already bad games from Syndra versus Akali, where the Akali can't execute properly on the disruption and the semi-burst sustain damage to get over Syndra's, hi, I've got balls everywhere, I can press a button and kill you. Right? Because Syndra has a simplicity factor to it.
Which is good.
Which is, it's good. I will always opt in for simplicity when it makes sense. In this situation, the simplicity had too much burst and it falls off over time. And because you have a lot of disruption and other simple methods that exist within Suning's comp, the Akali made sense here because she's a lot more disruptive. And if she is ahead, she bursts immediately, and that's already scary. But even if she's just keeping up, which she did most of this game, she did keep up this entire game.
She kept up.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Most of the time, that's all you need is an Akali because you become disruptive. Because yes, the sustain is not crazy, but it is enough to help pass through multiple rotations, which is something that the Syndra can't do, that the Jhin can't do, that the Kennen can't do, but the Akali can. That's why it made sense in this situation. The issue is that you have an idiot that's an Italy and a Jax that got Omnistone, and then you're just like, well, shit. It's one thing to be disruptive, but if I got idiots that can't do anything with the disruption, then it's useless.
Like,
I'm going to get it, Josh. And worldwide, Platinum Plus, Syndra versus Akali is a flat 50-50.
Sure. Sure, that could be the case, but I'm just saying, from like what I've seen in all the games that we've watched, like I almost never go, yes, Akali beat the Syndra. Like that never happened. Akali versus Syndra, Damwon versus G2. Akali lost that one. Akali versus Syndra, Suning versus G2. Akali won that, but they had a Leona roaming up, and their jungler had CC. Or sorry, not their jungler. Akali roam. Sorry, go.
So like what you're doing is you're looking primarily back into the previous like games. That's a good aspect, and you're looking as to why they win or lose. That's great. Exactly what you're supposed to do. If we're talking about like in a vacuum chamber, the Syndra versus Akali matchup, I give it to Syndra 99,000 times out of like 100,000. But this is not a vacuum. And in the context of the team composition being built, when I saw they picked Nidalee, I was like, whatever. And then they picked Jhin Syndra, and I thought Syndra's early. And they picked Akali Jax, and I went, damn, that's a good response because of what the Jhin and Syndra are now going to have a harder time doing.
But you have no way to prop the Akali up, though, so you're just letting her flop there.
Yeah, that's the issue of the way that Suning just drafted afterwards, and that the fact that they picked Omnistones. I'm saying as a response to the Jhin Syndra, this was a good idea. Out of the responses afterwards, like everything after that, I don't know what they were smoking.
I still don't think Akali's a good champion to a Syndra, but we've been talking about this long enough.
It was the fact that it was the Jhin Syndra combo. That's specifically why I was like, all right, this is good.
All right, next game. You're not, just like how I'm not going to convince you, you're not going to convince me that Akali's good into Syndra. I think it's crap, and I think if you pick it, you're bad. Damwon wins game 4 with a Ornn Kindred Syndra Caitlyn Pantheon. Oh look, it's a repeat of game 1 bot lane support versus support. And then Suning picks a Gangplank, don't know why. A Graves, Orianna, Aphelios, and a Leona. I almost said a Sword Art. It's not a Sword Art. Sword Art's the player. Quick for me, I literally thought this game was like the rollover, we're not allowed to surrender anymore type of game.
This game, when I saw the pick ban, I went, all right, cool. You gave Damwon immediate control of tempo by letting them get the Syndra, Kindred, and Caitlyn. And you're like, yes, we got Graves, Leona. And then you got the Orianna. I was like, oh, those are okay. Yeah. But you have no way of properly engaging into them without an issues. And I was like, okay, it's fine. It's salvageable. It's fine. Both sides have good cores. One's better, but that's fine. The cores are not everything. But Suning has the daft idea of picking Aphelios, and the response to the Pantheon Orn is to pick the Gangplank, and I went, you guys decided
Yeah.
you don't want to play
Yeah.
because you don't want control of the tempo. You're just like, we're going to pick a composition that scales, does nothing early game, and scales against a team that you just witnessed picking only scaling,
Like-
but with tempo control.
Why didn't they pick like a Fiora again? I feel like that would have been a lot better than the Gangplank.
It would have done nothing different.
I think it would have been better.
It would have. The problem here is the Aphelios.
Aphelios is the issue. You're also so you're doing it into Ornn, Camille's band, Jax's band.
If they pick Fiora, like, all right, cool. The issue comes in the fact of that they have the Aphelios here, and they've opted into late game scaling. Like, straight up, they won't be able to have any contesting with it. And the only way a Fiora or a Gangplank or anything works in a 1-4 composition is if your 4 can deal with their 5.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a Aphelios, it doesn't work because you have to contend with another 5 composition that does pure scaling and has more tempo control early.
Mm-hmm. Also,
they-
this is the game where I where I sent a message in the group chat where I was like, wow, I guess Ornn's a pick champion now. Because, like, this is the game where Nuggery almost kills Angel by himself and even, like, picks, I think, Huangfeng at one point. Like, where it's just like, Jesus. All right, cool. When the Ornn has better CC and pick than the Leona.
Well, like Ornn at level 13 with Abyssal Mask upgraded and that kind of thing, yeah, is gonna be able to 1v1 an Orianna. Like that should not be a surprise.
I think it should. An Orianna should definitely be able to hold her own, regardless of what the Ornn has.
Okay, but most champions aren't able to build like a magic resist item that early. Even when they do, it's like, okay, most items it's like 55 magic resist. The upgraded Abyssal Mask is 100 magic resist
Mm-hmm.
plus his like it's like his base stats and stuff are higher, so he ends up with having like whatever, like 170 MR, which is enough to like just not take damage. Plus he has health, which a lot of champions don't have as much. Like he's much more tank stats to be able to survive that. Not to mention, Abyssal Mask, like I explained, gives you 15% increased magic damage nearby. Sunfire Cape, the second item he builds, is also not only a tank item, it does magic damage to nearby champions.
Mm-hmm.
So you're doing, and his Bella's Breath is like that percent health point, you get the brittle procs. So in theory, you have it's the same way as like, yeah, Sejuani and Zac actually do lots of damage if you land their full combos on things. In a very similar manner, it's like, yeah, you've percent health damage, you've magic damage.
I think the thing.
I
that
think it's
also,
mostly. Oh, sorry, go Seb.
Yeah, the thing that compounds it is the fact that they were so far behind. Also,
Mhm.
that like there was no survivability that existed anymore in Orianna. A burst control mage inbuilt survival mechanisms
Mhm.
couldn't deal with it, or barely was able to get out of it. Look at anybody else who has 0 survival mechanisms until it's 35 minutes into the game.
Yep.
I just think it was more on the Orianna's like fault than it was like the Ornn being too good.
Oh,
For me.
there he is. So he gains 10% bonus magic resistant armor from all sources. So that's why he's at like whatever 180 magic resist. Orianna would not have a void yet to be able to burst through that. So maybe she's got Sork shoes. So it's like whatever 160 instead. Still takes like whatever 30% of her damage instead of 100% from that much MR. Orianna probably has just her base MR, which is like 35. So doesn't reduce his damage by like at all. And Brittle is at that level is 15.65% of your magic health, and you can do it twice. So there's a 30% max health magic damage, plus his W is would be maxed out at that level for 16%. So it's like 46% of your max health, plus the Q damage, plus the knockout, plus the R damage, plus the Sunfire Cape damage, plus all of that is multiplied by 1.1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's gonna one-shot people.
Or he's gonna one combo people.
Well, he's gonna one-shot someone with 0 magic resist, right?
I
Like,
agree with Josh though. It is definitely more on Angel. For that, the fact that he survives is crazy alone, given the context. But it definitely was his fault. Honestly, I think the game would have been better if they picked, I don't know, a Sivir.
Oh boy. Oh
They were
boy.
hovering it, weren't they? This is the game where I was like, they hovered it, then they didn't. But like, you spell shield a Pantheon stun, now you're in a really, really good spot.
Yeah.
And like, you have that split second when you see him coming in, like where he starts his jump. Like a professional player should be able to spell shield a Pantheon stun, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote at some point, they got the Infernal Soul at 22 minutes and 40 seconds, and I went, well, blue side soul, the game's done.
Yeah.
Yep. And then like about 4 minutes later, the
Yep.
game was done.
So like, what is it that gave them Dragon Control? Is it just the fact that they have Pantheon, or is it the fact that they had Orianna that made it so bad?
Not
Like,
specifically.
in my
Orianna's
understanding
a
is
neutral
that
lane.
Kindred and Graves are pretty equal.
The issue is that they had no priority bot lane because they got a shitty champion that only worked at 35 minutes.
Yes, that. Also,
So-
when he completely.
Other than Aphelios, literally anything else. Pick a Ziggs.
Yeah, but
Also,
Damwon just won with
Damwon-
Aphelios. It must be viable.
When Damwon took the inhibitor and Aphelios completely missed the ult on 5 people.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if anyone saw that.
Did he?
It's just
I don't remember that.
yeah.
I was honestly so out of this game.
The ult just missed.
Yeah, Damwon picked also the Aphelios.
Oh.
The issue here is that I also didn't like the Aphelios in this situation.
Mhm.
They also lost that game.
Yeah, they lost to Aphelios. That was versus the Rengar.
Aphelios has a 100% lose rate.
Yeah.
He's a garbage champion. Why did he come back?
Well, like you kill dragons and barons and stuff really fast with your
Shotguns,
crescendos.
man.
Not at like any
Shotguns.
time other than 35 minutes.
Like you can basically like you and your support can just go take drag, like no problem when you have that weapon. You have a root, so you have the CC. Like a lot of people are playing like the Jin and the Senate because they have the roots. You have really long range if you can land damage. If someone's stupid enough to walk into your turret, bad things happen to them.
Wow, that's great. This sounds like
But that's if they're being silly.
level players. But like,
Yeah.
what does it offer other than the root early in?
So like yeah, the turret is zone control. The Infernum alt is basically for like you finish someone off. So like yeah, if you can do something where you're running like Karthus and Ziggs and stuff. They basically like, get that current, get the damage off, and then like finish people off. But range and
Let's do the air.
wave clear.
What does offer and who can do it better?
Well, like Caitlyn, because she wins on range. The traps are probably more useful than his just one route because you can block up a whole section. She gets the zone control from that anyways.
In this situation, there's no Caitlyn because it's already.
Sure.
Who else?
Sivir.
Who else is better? Senna.
Mm-hmm.
It's different because you don't do quite the same amount of like AoE damage or that kind of thing, but like between your heals and your map shields and like
Yep.
yeah, Senna has much more utility. Ashe has its own control, has the vision, has its stun instead of the root. Like
Ash band.
yeah, okay. I'm
Paris, I would have been like, oh, that's interesting.
I was about to say Varus too. Yeah, but I mean, he's not that strong right now.
It doesn't matter. Aphelios is worse.
Yeah.
Like, objectively worse. And you had so many games to show. You had Twitch. You had Misfortune. Fuck, Sivir was an option. Tristana. Corky. Like
No, not Corky.
I would have taken Corky over this any day.
Yeah. Yep. But you know what Sivir's really good into? Pantheon Caitlyn.
Just a
Because the
little
spell
bit.
shield is so effective versus those two.
But we're in a world where they decided to roll over and die because they picked up Aphelios. So I'm sad.
Yeah.
Honestly, Damwon also was super clean.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Really clean.
That Kindred was gross.
Canyon was straight up styling.
Yeah, 807, dude. Shit.
But Kindred is like an extra snowbally champ versus anything else because his inborn mechanic is he wants to take your jungle camps, which is very difficult to do unless you're ahead or like when you're going in, chances are you're gonna walk into the enemy jungler a lot of the time. So you need to be like ahead and able to fight the enemy jungler anytime you walk into them because you're going into their jungle trying to steal camps, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not to mention he gets extra stacks, which and his Kindred stacks, if you ever look through them, Kindred stacks are broken. They add to his damage, like his range on everything, his damage on like all of his abilities, except his ult, but whatever.
Stupid ult.
All of Kindred's basic abilities get better the more stacks you have. Like, it adds to your damage on everything and your range. Like, what else do you need? So when Kindred starts getting a whole bunch of marks, it's gross. And they're supposed to be hard to get, but like when you can just click on like the enemy graves and say, I'm going to walk into the jungler, I'm going to get the camp, that's the mark, and like if he shows up, I just win. Like,
Yeah. No, I'm gonna say Canyon deserved the tournament MVP.
Yeah.
That was crazy.
Did he get it? I didn't watch the end of that.
Yeah, he did get it.
Okay, cool.
The
Did you
tournament
see?
You know who
Kind of
else
off-
didn't watch the end of Worlds?
Who?
Almost everybody in the crowd.
Oh,
Like-
the thing at the end.
Like that
Yeah.
room, Connor. I don't know if like you
Just
didn't
emptied.
watch it, but oh my god, that room emptied quick. Like
I did see a thing of it was showing them picking up the award, and then it zoomed over to the audience, and it was just the thing of just like Shia LaBeouf sitting alone in the audience.
like
That was good.
there were still people in the audience, and like there
Well,
weren't.
also the Chinese
it
team
wasn't-
lost.
It
right?
wasn't packed to begin with because of COVID and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But like there was a decent chunk of people. And like literally as soon as like the like confetti was done dropping, like it looks like at one point like they had like a shot list determined for okay, whoever wins, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do a panning shot, then we're gonna go to the audience, then we're gonna go to the team, then we're gonna go back to the audience, we're gonna do a zoom out, blah, blah, blah. Like there was like a shot list that was predetermined, and it looks like they stopped it halfway through. Because like it looked like they were like running through the whole gambit, blah blah blah. Yes, shot of the players, shot of the confetti, shot of the like big auditorium that you can't really see anything because confetti's everywhere.
Sure.
And then it got to like the audience pan, and the audience pan lasted less than like a second. Cause like they started
'Cause they're
panning
like-
at the audience, and I'm like, I don't think I see anyone. And then before I could even like figure out if there was enough people, they cut away to something else. And they just cut away to like the players, I think, randomly walking. Like it wasn't super like it wasn't like a
So-
well placed shot in my mind. So it looked very like shit, cover the fact that everyone left.
Yeah, my favorite thing though was I think whatever was on stage, like the host kind of thing, and like Chinese had like asked Canyon a question and like handed him the microphone
Mm-hmm.
and
And
then
he
left.
didn't give it back.
And then no, the interviewer just left.
Oh
And then
yes.
that's when they went to go get the trophy. So you see the five of them pick up the trophy,
And
and
Canyon
Canyon
still
stuck
got
up
the
the mic in one hand,
Yeah.
and then they're like taking pictures. And, like the four of them are like standing posing, and Canyon's like a couple feet off to the side, and he's holding the microphone, and he's just like, "I'm gonna save my camera." And he's like,
What do I do? What do I do?
and he's holding the
Yeah.
microphone, but it's like his team and his coaches are the only ones on stage.
Dude, even the Chinese staff disrespected them, bruh.
He's like, Mike, who wants this mic back?
Please, please, please. Oh god.
That was good.
But I know Seb's usually the one who asks the questions, but I want to ask a question really quick.
Oh, okay.
Is this the second coming of the Korean dynasty?
No.
No,
Oh,
but
shot down
what I
immediately.
like about it is that it makes it more hype for next year. Like if it's like China, you're like, okay, we just who can beat China now? They're the top one. We expect the Chinese team to win. The fact that we're like, okay, we're having a variety, like okay, China, Korea. Next year, it makes that kind of China versus Korea a lot more hype. So you're like, hey, whatever. Like we have a revitalized top esports kind of thing. We don't know what's gonna happen next year, right? Coming back, like we have Damwon coming back with like a very similar roster type thing, even if they keep all the same players. Like it makes that like or like Suning picks up one new player as well, kind of thing. It's like a big import. And like I was like, yeah, they look really good. Like hard to say, right? Like it makes it more hype for next year coming back to be like, yes, who's going to win next year, China or Korea, or like even without bringing in anything else, right? So
I think it's not as clear cut and dry anymore. It's
exactly.
one of those things where like I
Well-
clearly knew who. So I talk about this. I went back to like go through all of my Facebook notes when I was doing like watching all the series.
Yep.
And there's a point when I watched Suning's first game or first series. I went, this team's cool. Watched their second series. I'm like, all right, this is the team to beat for Worlds. And then they played Top Esports and they got wrecked. I'm like, all right, Top is the favored. And then I saw Damwon play. And I'm like, Damwon's the only other team that could beat Top. And it was like those two were clearly solidly in my mind. And they had never played each other in like an official international setting. Like they had their thing that was kind of an international thing. And I don't think anybody will know which region has the lead until summer. I think that's going to be the case now. I think MSI has become a terrible tool to evaluate how the tournament's going to go for Worlds. It used to be good. It's not anymore.
Why is that?
Too many changes between?
Yeah, too many changes between. The way that people play out the spring tends to not necessarily have the most competitive vibe to them.
Spring split doesn't matter. Double lift.
Yeah.
It only doesn't matter in North America.
Think about last year, right?
Yeah.
Last year was the whole thing about Europe's hype and Europe being the favored region to win.
Mm-hmm.
And who was second place in MSI? It was North America, who had convincingly beaten the world champions.
Yeah.
It was literally China and Korea were third and fourth, like in a convincing manner. And then like North America was second, and Europe was convincingly first above everyone else.
But I don't think China and Korea weren't taking MSI seriously, though.
No, it has nothing to do with them taking it seriously. It has to do with the regions not taking spring split as seriously as summer.
You don't think Korea takes spring split seriously?
Because it's the way that it's like what it evaluates. Spring split evaluates who's going to MSI, and that's the litmus test of like, all right, how strong are all the regions? But a summer split is who goes to Worlds, and that's the tournament that's important.
But everyone still operates off championship points, though.
No.
Yeah.
Everyone except for NA does, yeah.
Yeah, the only region where spring split does not matter at all is North America. Every other region, it'll be like first place in spring is 50 points and first place in summer is 100 points.
Yes, Seb, technically, yes, spring split doesn't matter because you could just try your hardest in summer and win. Like if you want to be that cocky, teams can definitely do that for sure. TSM's done it a bunch.
But like you can get like first place spring, fourth place summer, and qualify from championship points off that kind of.
Yeah. And that's great, but most of the times the teams that do get the points that would help them qualify and were guaranteed for that end up also still winning the first place in summer. That tends to be the case most of the time.
Okay.
Not with TSM.
Yeah, but the
North America doesn't matter, right?
The championship points didn't happen this year for North America.
Yeah, exactly.
No, but even in
And
years
Europe
where
championship
even in the
points-
years where North America had championship points, Bjergsen and Double Lift a bunch of times were quoted saying, like spring split, we don't want to stress too much about it, blah blah blah. Like they've were quoted multiple times, Reggie as well, saying things like spring split, there's no need to stress over it. We'll just win in
the
summer.
reason primarily also for that is like mentioned earlier, the changes into the game, how Worlds is played and how spring is played is so different most of the time that like practicing so hard to be the best early into the year and not later in the year hurts you long term because it's a marathon, not a sprint. If they change the format in which they do patches and how the splits work, I want them to abolish the split system. It's just bad. It's just, can we not have that? But it's not, people are going to keep the split system. It's going to keep going for at least a couple of years. But they have to change the way that patches work and how often they change. Because at that rate, it's very clear that no matter what you do in spring, you're going to be playing completely differently in summer. And you're either experimenting the hell out of anything in Spring Split, so it doesn't properly evaluate what every region's strength is at MSI. Or you're a team that's trying seriously, and then that momentum doesn't carry through into summer because you're not playing the same meta anymore. And so the only way that you properly evaluate which teams are going to be really good is during the summer playoffs. Which is also why I tend to also, like, even when MSI happens, I watch the playoffs of every region at that point because that's the best way to evaluate which teams are going to be very good. Because that's the patch that every team is evaluated for their entry.
I still think that there should be some way to use championship points. I don't think that it should qualify people. I think qualifying off only championship points is bad. What I think that they should be doing, because they need to bring legitimacy to spring. I don't like the fact that literally all of North America now, barring like some of the bottom teams that need to prove themselves to like sponsors / their fans or whatever, they could just go like, fuck it, we'll be back in 3 months and we'll just kind of play whatever until then, or some players even take a break or like whatever. I think they need to do like, I think that like to some degree, championship points should influence how the playoff bracket is made, and that's the incentive. If you get a lot of
how it
championship
works.
points, you get buys and stuff like that, but you still obviously have to play a couple games because it's playoffs. But the likelihood of what was like the
So you're
really
saying
what was the
like
really
total
bad
championship points
yeah
is used to determine summer playoffs.
yeah
That's
Well.
what Europe works.
yeah like
Except the problem is that the way that Europe did it means that like whoever got the first place in championship points qualified for playoffs and auto qualified for Worlds because they had 4 seeds.
no, but
And I
see,
thought that was
I
stupid.
think it should be implemented in a way where that's not possible.
Yeah.
At the moment, I can't think of how, but like I'm sure there's a way to make it so
there's
that's not possible.
definitely a way.
So
It's
I think
happened-
Europe is the closest region to getting the closest. Like I kind of agree with Seb, where I think it should just be like the split should be summer and half of spring long, so like a 3-round robin, in
Yeah.
my opinion. But if we're not going to do that, I think that they should do that. Spring heavily affects the end of summer somehow. So it's like, yes, you can do the whole TSM G2 thing of like, we're not going to try / we're not going to do too much grinding during spring and then just pedal to the metal in summer. So it's like, sure, you can play that gamble if you want, but then it also rewards teams who are trying to be on consistently all year without auto qualifying them like Rogue.
That's it's a hard balance to strike, right? Like it's.
I mean,
it's
I know the solution.
You're not allowed to
Okay.
say cancel spring.
All right, you eliminated one of my 2 solutions.
Okay.
Okay. My best solution is don't have a spring and summer split. The split system is stupid. Have it be a long form double round robin best of 3.
Ooh, that'd be also neat.
Right? You do best of 3s. You have them play on like 3 or 4 days in a row, but have them play best of 3s where they play one opponent, and then you do that twice for every team, and it gives them a time for all of them to like play within a certain amount of patches against as many teams as possible, and to properly evaluate how good teams are against each other.
Question: as someone who doesn't watch a lot of sports ball, how often do teams play? Like in, like how often do they play in a season? So like the Leafs. How, like do the Leafs have a series every week, or are there ever weeks off?
They do. NHL is 82 games in a year, and that's the season is like September to. She only goes to like March or something. So it's like 6 months. So you're playing like. That's including playoffs and stuff, right?
Oh,
April's mostly playoffs. May kind of things playoffs too. So
I think it's
sometimes
every team plays it a best. It does a double round robin for East and West League.
Okay, well, what about
they-
basketball? Basketball doesn't have best ofs until playoffs, if I'm correct, right?
Exactly. Hockey as well. So they changed it so every team they changed it now so that every team plays every other team in the league at least twice, once at home and once away. So you have that's the majority of your games is like hockey's like okay 30 and 30 is 60.
Okay.
And then the other you play 82 games in total and the other 22 are your division. They split it into like divisions of like whatever the closest it's like 7 or 8 teams.
Yeah.
Depending because it's not Denver right now. And then the remaining of your games are against your division. So like
Okay.
Toronto plays Montreal 4 times and Ottawa 4 times and everybody else 2 kind of thing.
Okay.
That makes sense.
Because like I would just think that there has to be a sport because like I don't think that every team plays every week. Like there has to be teams that have weeks off.
There's most like thing. So the sport with the least variance at all in terms of like luck or things randomly happening is basketball.
Mm-hmm. But like I think there's a world where we can have like TSM as an example plays like week 1 TSM has like 2 or 3 series, right? Then week 2 they're off. Then week 3 they're on again. Type thing.
That's the idea behind the big long year with
no. That's what I'm saying though. Like if we do the big long year, like I think that's a good way to do it because then it's yeah. You already explained it, but yeah.
yeah. I think baseball actually has days off, but like that's also not a great example.
I thought baseball had best ofs all the time.
No. They don't have best ofs. They have it's just a round
series system.
They have series like for their playoffs, but not for the regular season.
Alrighty.
Like all sports, all competitive sports things, they only have series when it's the playoffs. But like good esports have series regularly. Like that's how you evaluate.
Yeah.
Because of the lack of variance. But also sports take
But
longer.
Fortnite doesn't have series, Seb.
You said when you said a word, it gurgled for a couple of seconds.
Anyway, let's put a pin in that. We're running at about an hour 12. Do we have anything else to cover?
Oh yeah, my second.
Did you want to?
My second solution.
Okay, go
ahead. Is have all of your teams play playoffs and have it determined by championship points how they are seeded.
That works too.
Don't have breakoff points.
Yeah.
Have all your teams play.
So now it means that teams that are trying really hard near the end and that are maybe getting a little bit of boost can actually maybe make a miracle run.
Yep.
It probably won't happen too often because like they're 9th and 10th for a reason, but
yeah, but like again, the patch that determines how teams are sent to Worlds is the one that have played in playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
That's the important patch.
Yeah.
All the others is happenstance and preparation.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I feel like the next time we're gonna talk to each other is when some crazy news happens with like anything team related, which probably won't until mid-December. In which case, preseason also.
Yes, but I think really quick we should it's like pour one out for the boys. Pour one out for the boys for Bjergsen retiring. All the memes aside, it's a pretty crazy thing to see, at least in my opinion. He's been around for a while.
For sure.
I mean, like, I'm gonna try to avoid saying anything because the two of you know my feelings on European mid laners that are not Froggen just coming in. But kudos to Bjergsen being the most consistent import.
Yep.
So like he's carved himself to being an icon and a player, and unfortunately he'll ruin it as a coach. Please prove me wrong.
I was like, is Seb gonna say that? Is Seb gonna say it?
Please prove me wrong. Probably not going to be. My streak is fairly good.
Really quick, since we're like barely even talking about news, uh,
Mhm.
I think Reignover will be a better coach than Bjergsen is.
Ooh. I would take that bet if it was a bet.
I am tentative to agree, but only tentatively.
Because,
That's
like,
because I don't think either
in my
one of them are
opinion,
great.
as good as Bjergsen is, because like he is good. Like there's like the bar. Bjergsen's clearly over the bar in terms of like what an average player would be considered, right? So like we're not gonna. The
Like
amount
3,
of which
4
he's
goals.
better is debatable on the person, whatever. But like he's better than the average person. We have to give him that.
He's better than the average pro player, ever.
Yeah. So like
Yeah.
that aside, even though Reignover hasn't had nearly the same like decorated career as Bjergsen, just based off what I see,
I don't think you guys are giving Bjergsen enough credit. Like, I heard a really interesting argument, which was basically, it was Dom or I would dominate talking about how like, from Bjergsen's perspective, you can go through it season by season and be like the Europe being better than North America thing hasn't really been around since like maybe like season 8. It's like the start of that. Like really when like G2 and Fnatic really started stepping it up per se. Maybe like some outliers and stuff, but like you can see it as like, let's say, oh, you should have gone to Europe. It's like, well, maybe if you got a spot on like season 9 G2 or something, but like where those teams were stacked was like mid lane, right? Like it wasn't going to happen, right? Like he wasn't. So like looking at it from his perspective, like it wasn't like he was going to go play in Korea or something, right? Like TSM through most of those points was like his best bet to honestly win a world championship, and you can't say he wasn't trying.
I'm not
per se.
saying Bjergsen wasn't trying.
And like
I'm just
when we
saying
talk
I
about
don't think TSM properly built around him, even though they said that they were building
Sure.
around him every time.
We're also telling you that he could be worse than Reignover as a coach.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to. Coach, not player.
Sure.
Yeah, no, we prefaced it. All time, Bjergsen is better than the average player all time.
Yeah, because like some people, he's overrated. Like I'm pandering to those people a little bit by saying that we can argue on how much better on average, but like as a minimum, he's better than the average person as a minimum. But I think that like game knowledge wise and stuff like that, just kind of my own opinion based off how I've seen Reignover talk in like interviews and stuff like that.
Mhm.
I think Reignover has a better grasp of the game as a whole. And I just get the feeling, and I definitely could be wrong, but I get the feeling that a lot of Bjergsen's point of view is like the how do I win this game type of thing. So like, whereas I feel Reignover has a more of a how do we win this game type of mentality, and he's had that mentality, I think, for most of his playing career / now that he's coaching. I feel like that will make him a better coach in terms of like switching that mentality into like a teaching position as opposed to Bjergsen, because I don't think that translates very well to coaching, being like, this is how I would win. Like you're me, and this is like I just don't think that would work over very well. And I think Reignover has a better perception of like the entire game, because Bjergsen's also been kind of Bjergsen's been running the show a little bit on TSM with Doublelift as players playing and coaching for themselves, if that makes sense. Like you're not coaching for the team's benefit necessarily, or at least I feel like it'd be very hard to objectively coach for the team. Yes, obviously, like you're not trying to do this on purpose to like shoot yourself in the foot or whatever, but I think that Bjergsen and Doublelift to a lesser extent were like when they were coaching the team, they were coaching of like, here's how I want to be winning, not like oh, here's your strengths, let's use that, no type thing. And I just think that the bulldozing method of just being like, I'm ignoring what's around me, here's what's happening, isn't going to be the best.
The TLDR is junglers are better than mid laners in becoming coaches. just by the nature of the role.
And sometimes top laners.
I would say supports, but yes.
And supports.
All lo and behold, don't just make your ADCs and mid laner coaches.
I mean, I think Cop's a pretty decent coach.
Is he?
I think so.
He never registers in my periphery ever.
He coached
He never
Gravity.
registered in my periphery of many things at all, but
He coached
you know.
Gravity.
Did he?
Yeah. I'm like pretty
Where's
sure he
Gravity
did.
now?
Huh?
Where's Gravity now?
They got bought out. They didn't
Why?
make it into franchising. I don't think that's his fault. I like
But where's Cop? Where's Cop now?
Cop is on. He's on a team. He's a coach right now. I think it's no, it's not 100 Thieves. It's Dignitas. He's on Dignitas. No, it's Golden Guardians, I think. He's on a team that's yellow, I'm pretty sure. Is it Dignitas or no, it's
FlyQuest
Dignitas.
Academy.
Fuck, I knew it was a yellow team. FlyQuest, there you go.
He's on the academy. He's the coach for their academy team.
Yeah, but okay, but he was okay, but like frig, what's it called? Peter was a LCS coach who also got moved down to academy, and people still talk about how Peter's good. Anyway,
There's usually something in me that tells me that somebody's a good coach because you can tell within the pick bands, like that there's some thought behind the team.
like Jet.
Sure, until I don't know what happened after groups. But like you can clearly see thought. This is why Coma's so awesome. If he ever comes back to coaching, who knows? He was at Vici Gaming, but he resigned due to something happening. But you can tell when a team has a coach that is just a coach, and then somebody who's like hands-on directing the team just by the big fans alone.
Anyway, we're running a bit long, so is there anything else you want to cover?
No, I'm gonna see you guys when I'm gonna see you guys who watch it. Everybody, thank you very much. When the preseason comes in, and we'll have more news about.
We're gonna talk about mythic items.
It'll be fun and exciting. Thank you all for watching. We appreciate it. This was a fun world. We're gonna have cool stuff coming up when next year comes along. I think all of us have different regions we want to follow, and that'll be an interesting conversation.
Yep.
And
for sure.
Like and subscribe. We'll see you all sometime
in a month,
Yeah.
probably.
Maybe, yeah, something when we have news to talk about. We'll be like, even if it's a shorter episode, we can be like.
Yeah, we might switch over to some short form content. Who knows?
Yeah, we could do something quickly like, okay, let's do 20-minute episodes to quickly talk about each of the major regions kind of thing for next year, kind of maybe even.
Thank you all for watching. We'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah. Take care.